I just emailed you. You got it?
Not yet, but it will get here. Why don't you get started and we'll figure that part out.
Okay, cool. So I am Becky McDonald and Melissa Stroh is on here as well. She just was talking. And today is all about managing student workflow. The presentation, the link to it is right up here, tinyurl.com/CHUH workflow if you would like to open up the slides yourself. I know Melissa loves to make a copy so that she can add her notes off to the side in that little slides notes portion. Also, we're asking that you sign in. We're trying to keep track because we did fill out some paperwork trying to get you guys some PDUs. So we want to make sure that we know who was here so that we can follow up with you later. Okay, so our learning objectives for today are by the end of the workshop, participants will be able to determine which practices could improve their management of student workflow. So we're going to present a lot of stuff. We understand that not all of it is going to be perfect for you, but we want you to pick and choose what might be great for you. So we're going to talk about Classroom, Docs, Slides, Gmail, and Infinite Campus. I'm going to talk a little bit about Drive and how I'm using that to help me find exactly what the kids have been working on instead of going through all of the work. Okay, so first thing I'm going to talk about is the classwork tab, some do's and don'ts. And there's a lot of text on here, and I'm not going to read it to you, but we want this to be a resource you can come back to later so that you can access it and know what we were talking about. So it is here so you can look at it. I'm going to pull up my Google Classroom for you guys to see. So here's my Google Classroom. So the first thing we wanted to talk about was the topics. So if you're looking at my Google Classroom, oh my goodness, I just keep going onto a loop. So my stream only has the announcements on the front so that kids can just see what's happening. And then under the classwork is where all the assignments are. We have just a couple of topics. We've got quarantine time. We've got optional practice and then important resources. So we're using the topics to kind of keep everything that's new up at the top and that kids don't have to access multiple topics in 1 week. So all of the learning is right there for them for this whole week. Okay. With the assignments, okay, if a student is going to be completing an assignment, we always make the assignment have make a copy. So for each student, so each student will get a copy. The great thing about that is that you can actually see while they're working. So I've only had 3 kids turn this in so far, but I know other kids have worked. So I know that I've given feedback and I can look at their stuff already. So I know Malachi, who turned it in, of course. Who else? Vanessa, she's been working. And I can open up her work at any point and see what she's done without her turning it in and give her feedback. So I could see she's already done some of this stuff and I've already given her feedback. We talked in person on this one. And then the other part was the grading. So because you make a copy for each student, you could grade throughout the week. I'm using rubrics. So if you look at my assignment, I've got one assignment, but I have this rubric right here where it's each individual thing. So they get some points for reading the two-way table slides. So that's slides 3, 4, and 5. For their Khan Academy practice, they get some points for their creating two-way tables, their practice worksheet, and their quizzes. So instead of having to grade it as one lump, when I'm grading them, I can go ahead and put in a grade for each portion, and it'll start calculating it for me. The other thing I really love is that some of the stuff, especially with math, I find is really hard to give feedback on. So this person, slide 3, they had some mistakes. So I was able to tell them, well, slide 3, number 1 and 2 were incorrect. We film a quick Screencastify. So this is a little plug. We've got Screencastify training coming up. And the students, that's actually a live link for the students. So they can click out and go to YouTube and watch my feedback. And I can write straight up on the screen and give them feedback about their work, which is great. And you can only do it if you do the make a copy so that you could see their work as they're working on it. Sorry, there's a lot of clicking. Melissa's going to start talking about the settings tab. Melissa, I think you're still muted.
Yep. I don't have access to you anymore.
Of course you don't.
I know. So those of you who are joining us, we're trying something new where I can have remote access to her desktop, so I can kind of control it. So it's like a zombie cursor. So ideally it would be working. It's not so much right now. So we'll do the best we can. So Becky, if you don't mind going to my classroom.
Yes.
Okay, so here's my classrooms. And we're going to go down to the Algebra 2 tab. And we're just going to show you a couple things about the settings. So actually, Becky, sorry, go back to the overall, the overall classes. Yep. So if you go to the left-hand side, Becky, could you show that again where we went? If you go to the left-hand side, to the hamburgers, and you scroll all the way down, you have some universal settings. So we're going to go to settings. And when you click on it, what pops up is a couple different things that apply to all of your classes. So if you scroll down, you can change your profile there. But for those of you who have a lot of classes, if you feel like you're getting a lot of email notifications and they're not serving any purpose for you, even like the late ones, you can always toggle that on or off. You can, and then you can see everything disappears. You also have the options of toggling off specific comments or classes that you are enrolled in versus classes that you teach. So I don't know if you saw my kind of overview there, but I'm enrolled in a couple different classes that I'm not the teacher in. So if I don't want to get those, so for example, I am a teacher in my mentee's class. He teaches that geometry period 3-4. You can see I have his notifications turned off. He gets a lot of notifications from his students and they're not actually my students. So that's why I didn't want to really have to hear them or see them constantly in my email. So that's why I've turned him off, but you can see that my other notifications are all on so that I can get emails when I know something has been updated. So that's the overall settings. The overall settings for classroom. But we can go into specific classes. And let's go into my Algebra 2 class. Robo, if you could press Control D, that will mute your mic because we're getting a little feedback on background noise on yours. So we're going to go to the settings on my classroom.
Control D. Hold on. Okay. You there?
Yes, we're here. Do you mind muting your mic for us?
Yeah, okay. I didn't know that. How would I know? Bye.
Hi. Thank you. All right. So, Becky, you want to get back out of here so we can show them where.
Is that better?
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
So you can see where in my Algebra 2 classroom, I opted to use this a different way than some people may use it. I put all of my Algebra 2 kids, and I have 129 of them right now. I put all of them in one classroom because I only teach one subject and I only assign the same thing basically to everybody all the time. I know some people have different periods for different classrooms. There's multiple ways to set it up. So if you notice, we can go up to the little icon in the upper corner, and this is another setting. This setting is specific to this class. So this class details, we can see the name of it, and we scroll up a little bit, we can have some description, subject, but this is the part I really wanted to talk about. General settings, I've disabled my class code. I don't need more people coming into my classroom. Becky, if you don't mind pressing the stream, in the stream, you can have a couple different options. So you can have teachers can only post or comment, students can only comment, or students can post and comment. I personally just have it as teachers. We don't necessarily use this as a communication tool, but I know a lot of teachers that do. And it's been really helpful to them. My children's teachers use it so that we can actually ask questions. And it's kind of nice to see other people's answers and questions as well. So on the next line, you have classwork on the stream. And it shows attachment and details, condense notifications, and hide all notifications. So Becky talked about in her classroom that she hides the notifications. I opt for the total other way, and I show attachments and details. And the reason I do that is because I have nothing else in my classroom. I only have assignments. That's it. So I show them in my stream and I show them in the classwork section, but that's a personal choice. Some people like to keep their stream very clean. It's totally a matter of choice. Okay. So the next one, deleted items are pretty clear. Garden summaries. If you haven't turned that on and the parents have expressed interest in receiving updates, they can get them, they opt in, and then they can choose how often they receive them. And then the MEET code. So we can talk about this very briefly. This is the MEET code that I use for my students. It is a secure code. I can send this code to anyone in CHUH and they can get into it. If they are a teacher, they can get in first because it's any teacher. So if you thought your MEET code wasn't secure because you tried it as a teacher or someone else, a teacher tried it and they got in, that's because they have a different kind of access than students. Students cannot start a secure MEET. So the MEETs that are like the nickname that we used when you guys got here, the CHUH Tech, that was a nickname. That is also a secured MEET. This is also a secured MEET, this link here. And so I post this link on my classroom all the time, and I also send it out through emails and through Remind to my students. So I do have mine visible. It still works, even if it's not visible. And I know we've explained this a few times to some different people and send it in email. If you have multiple classrooms, but you want everyone to go to the same MEET, you can just choose one of the websites or one of those links and share it with your other classes. You can just copy it like Becky did earlier, and you can just share it with your other classes.
Can I pop in real fast, Melissa?
Yeah.
Kids will get an error message if they try to go into the MEET before you're there. The error message is very confusing for students, so it's really important that you are getting there a couple of minutes early because it doesn't necessarily say your teacher is not in here yet. Also, this code at the end, that's the code that they could type in if they're on the app on their phone and it says like the MEET code. So if kids are having problems trying to log in with their phone, that's the way you could fix that.
Yes, and that is still also secure, even if they just type in that Bizarro GU3X code. So grading, Becky, did you want to talk about the grading next?
I don't remember what we were going to say about grading. Oh,
well, you use it and I don't.
Right. So I use it purely to keep track of what the kids have done and not done. These are not the grades that are in my grade book, though. So just because students have some scores on assignments, it doesn't necessarily equate to their grade in the grade book. I do that a different way. So I will show you what I did for my Infinite Campus grade book when we get to Infinite Campus in just a little bit.
Wait, Rebecca, can you show me how you got to that screen, that big screen that you just showed with all the grades?
I love that. Okay, so at the top, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 tabs. The last tab is called grades. I don't know why, I've just been so blind, but I hadn't seen it until this past week, but I could see overall how my kids have done and if they've turned in. So like this remote learning was ungraded, but I could see that they've turned it in. I can see all the grades. Sometimes I assign a grade even though they haven't turned it in. Some of my students forget to turn things in, so I can see it because I do make copies.
Okay, this is Monica. I have a question. I noticed you have not assigned. How do you not assign assignments to specific children?
So under the assignment, when you're making it, it will automatically pop up all students. But if you click on, click off of the all students, you can unassign it to just some of your students. So I made a separate assignment for my ELL students. So they don't get my weekly assignment. They have one assignment overall for the whole time that they're doing. So this assignment, Algebra 1 Quarter 4 project, is just to those students. Is that a clear explanation?
Yeah.
Should I explain it again?
Can you show us again?
Yes. So if I was creating an assignment,
yes.
When I create the assignment, over here when it says all students, I'm going to turn that off and just choose who I want to assign it to.
Or vice versa. Have everyone and then just take off the people you don't want it assigned to. Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
And that is a great way to differentiate, like Becky does for our English language learning students in our classroom. Okay, so we're still going to talk about Classroom. We're going to go to talking about different ways that you can use Classroom to communicate. So Becky, if you want to talk about how you use the private comments.
I am obsessed with the private comments. I do private comments daily to my students who are working and even my kids who are not working, mainly because they get that. So if they have Google Classroom on their phone, and you probably know because you see the same thing, they can get a pop-up message on their phone, which I feel like they're more likely to check, or at least my freshmen are more likely to check than their email. So a lot of times I say things like, so I had to change this assignment. So I send them just a quick message when I change their answers in something. Before I showed you kind of how I put YouTube links in there with my feedback, I give them little things like, don't forget if you need extra help, I'm online at 1:30. But I do things like that throughout the week. In addition, I like to, on Wednesday, so today is my day, I go through and any kid who hasn't opened the assignment, I go ahead and just write them a little message. You haven't opened this assignment, it's due Friday, please make sure you start it soon. So I love private comments. Melissa's going to talk about how to email through Google Classroom.
You can just stay in your group if you want to go,
Yep.
and we'll walk through it that way.
Mhm.
So there are multiple ways to email. If I wanted to email students within an assignment, so for example, last week I have a check-in form and I had some students who did not do it. So I was in the screen that Becky's in now, and where she's clicked right now where it says assigned, I can choose who gets the emails within this screen. So if it was specific to an assignment being missing, or the email was specific about an assignment, then I can do it within here. So for example, if she clicks now and she clicks the little email icon, what happens is it opens in a whole nother window, and it's Gmail. And you'll see that all of the emails are BCC'd, so the other students cannot see them. So I could just write, and I have just written a quick note in the, area, text area, and said, by the way, you didn't sign in with me last week for attendance purposes. Please make sure you do it the next week. And then I can send it to all my students. So that's one way that we can email students within Google Classroom. And I saw a question. Let me go back. Can you see if a student has opened an assignment? Do you want to do that, Becky?
Sure. So when you make a copy for all students, I made sure that everybody saw this assignment. So when you make a copy for each student, you can actually see their little, like a little picture of the assignment, but sometimes you'll notice that one of them has not. So Karen Castor has not done her assignment this week in algebra. Can you guys see this in your screen? Off to the side here? Okay, good. So because she has no attachments, even though I said make a copy for every student, that means that she has not clicked on the assignment to even open it yet. Some of these students might have opened it and not done anything, but they've at least opened it. Sean, to make an assignment, have a copy for each student. What you do is when you're creating the assignment, and this is kind of tricky, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little bit slower. When I don't hear people's voices, I just talk fast. So when you are creating the assignment and you link something from the Google Drive, so maybe I'm going to give everybody, here's the first thing that pops up. Everybody's getting managing student workflow. There are 3 options here. Students can either view file, students can edit file, or make a copy for each student. Okay, so if you want make a copy for each student, this only works when you initially create the assignment. Okay, so if you are in the assignment and you don't see this option, it either means you didn't choose a Google product, so a Google Drive, like a slide or a doc or something like that, a Sheets, or you like saved it and you didn't choose that originally, so you'll have to delete out the assignment and do it again.
Okay, can we go back to the emails?
Yes.
Okay. We also had a question, is it possible for a student to turn in an assignment without opening the attachment? Holy cow, yes. Sometimes they like to do that so it doesn't appear missing to their parents when they pull up Classroom for them. So they most definitely can just press turn in or, you know, mark when they're done. Even if they haven't even opened it, they can do that. And they do that. So, all right, this is the way that I send emails. If you go to people, and you can see all of Becky's students listed here. So this is how I like to send emails to my entire class. So I know that this is going to all my students in my Google Classroom.
I'm sorry, my children are loud. I apologize.
It's okay. So I have all the students right now. I have them checked off. So if I go to Actions, the drop-down menu right next to it, and then I have the choice to email them. And again, if I have everyone, it will open up a new tab, and it will be within an email. And again, all the students are BCC'd. So if you don't want to go, there is a way to do this in Infinite Campus as well. But if you don't want to go through that whole process, you can just do it like this in Classroom. You can just communicate with them. And again, you can pick specific students that you want. You can also email all the guardians this way as well. Of course, not every student has a guardian email in there, but you could email all guardians. And again, you'll see that it just goes to a BCC. So it's blind carbon copied. Everyone receiving the message does not know who else received the message. So I often like to kind of, if I do a blast about something very important, I will communicate in all ways. I will send emails from Classroom. I will send emails to students. I will do it through Infinite Campus. I will do it through Remind. I'm starting to sound like a Dr. Seuss character. So I'm going to stop. So that's another way that you can email your students directly from Classroom without having to go into Infinite Campus. I see a question, will it show as an unopened attachment? It will show like that in your classwork. Becky, if you want to go back to your students who haven't opened something, even if they said they turned it in, it still shows like it's not attached, even though they said it may show like that. It also, and again, maybe they did click on it. It just depends. I've seen this question a lot in a lot of groups in Facebook where people keep saying, I have students who weren't assigned an assignment. And when I look at it, it looks like it's missing. It's because they did not click on it yet. It's because they did not open it yet. Nothing is wrong with them and nothing is wrong with you. Once they click on it and open it, it should appear for you as well. Okay. I think that this is the end of our conversation about Classroom. So maybe we could take a minute to, oh no, we were going to do calendar invites. Okay. Do you do calendar invites, Becky, or do you want me to take over the screen?
You go ahead and take over the screen. Do you want me to send you a link again? Do you guys have any questions? Do you want to pause and answer questions real fast while Melissa takes over the screen?
I'm just going to present my screen.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Let me leave.
Okay. Okay, I will present my screen. So I wanted to show one more thing about the calendar, about invites. And this is related to Classroom. So I will also open up my Classroom so that you can see that. All right, so as I mentioned, I do have my link shared up here. And I do have all students in one classroom, all 129 of them right now. But I do know other people don't have it set up like that. So as I mentioned, if I wanted to share the link, I could just come over here to the Meet link and click on it. It lets me copy it. So let me show you what I'm going to do in Classroom. What we've been doing on Wednesdays is doing live teaching of our lesson. We have videos, but sometimes the kids don't like my videos, which hurts my feelings, but I've gotten over it. And we offered live teaching. So let's say I wanted to offer and invite every single person in my classroom at a specific time. So what I could do is pick a date. So let's say that I wanted to do it on Friday. So I'm going to open up a new email, or I'm sorry, a new calendar invite. I have more options. So let me show you all the things I can do. Let's say I'm just going to call this live teaching. Yay, exclamation point. Now, I don't want to add the Google Video Meet conferencing through this. I do not want to do that because that is no longer a secured link. So I copied and pasted my link. What I like to do is put it into this in the description. Join us here. Oops. And just do that. That way, if the student opens up the calendar, they can just click on it. They also know that it's on the classroom itself. It's on a bunch of other millions of documents as well. But I like to do this. So notice I did not make a new Meet code here. But what I do want to show you is how to invite your students, because that's a big long list of students. That's 129 names. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is go to guests, and let's make sure I'm in myself here. I am. I have a lot of calendars, you can see. Woo. So if I go here and I start typing the name of that class, so that name is Algebra 2. Algebra 2, and you see how all these classrooms popped up? So these are my old ones that are archived, 17, 18, 18, 19. So I'm going to pick my 2019, 2020 group. So it is going to send this invite to every single student in my classroom. And it's got the Meet link in the description. And I don't want them to see the guest list. I definitely don't want them inviting other people. So I'm going to take that off of there. But when I go to save this, it will ask, do you want to send the invite to everyone? And I would say yes. And then students would get an email about that. They also would see it in their calendar. Even if they didn't accept it, they would see it. So I like doing this because I can email an entire class at once. Okay. So Becky, I'm going to let you go back to your presentation.
Actually, you might want to stay on yours because it's docs now. Do you want to talk about docs?
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that. I will do that.
Before Melissa starts that, does anybody have any questions for us that we can answer in between about calendar or Google Classroom?
I have a quick question. How do you change the nickname for your Google Meet?
So unlike Melissa uses uses a Meet generated by Google Classroom. I use a nickname. So my students all know that they go into meet.google.com and they type in CHUHALG1. So that we just do that every time. The kids know it's CHUHALG1 because that's our website, it's our Twitter, it's our Instagram. So that's the reason we took that route. On Google Classroom, there is not a way to change your nickname.
Correct.
Oh, good. Now I don't feel crazy. I spent like a half an hour going through all the settings and okay.
Nope. The link you get from Classroom is the one you're stuck with. I mean, you can reset it, but it gives you another version of gobbledygook, long list of letters and numbers. So if you want to do it the nickname way, there's that way you can kind of customize it and it still gives you the same level of security. So
Awesome, thanks.
We are going to go to the next slide, which is about docs. And we're going to talk about a couple different things. The first thing I'm going to talk about is hyperlinks. And Becky and I are obsessed with hyperlinks. A couple years ago, we taught Algebra 2 together and we started making these calendars for each other. This was an internal document that we made. So you can see this is our Algebra 2 for this year. Becky no longer teaches Algebra 2 with me, sadly, but we've continued to do this. And in fact, all of the math department, all the TBTs have something similar so that we can communicate with each other and we can kind of see what the assignments are. Hyperlinks are these little live blue links that when I click on this, a link pops up, and I like this now because they now have a thumbnail that pops up so you can see exactly what you're opening. That's very helpful. If you don't know how to do this, because sometimes I've seen people's documents where they just copy and paste a really long, link. So and I'm just going to show you an example here. If I had a link, let's say that, I'm just going to use this link. So I could just paste this link here. And you can kind of see how that's kind of ugly and it takes up a lot of space. So instead of doing that, what you can do is type whatever you want to call it. And let's say I want to call this week 1. And I can highlight it And then I can attach a link. And there's a couple ways to do that. I'm a shortcut person, so I like to do Control K. But there's also this link button up here where it says Insert Link. And what pops up is a place for me to copy and paste my link so that you don't see the big long address. All you see is the text. And I can change the text right here if I wanted. Like we could call this week 10, and it will automatically update it. And now it's a live link. So I find hyperdocs or hyperlinking in a document, or you can do this in slides, incredibly helpful because you don't see the big long address. But this is also how I've been assigning things to my students since that we went on the remote learning. So I'm going to pull up what we've been doing. So let me show you. Here is my week 5 document. So in my class, we give this to them. Oh, it's taking a minute to load. Well, that's really slow today. Oh, there we go. So you can see that I have these hyperlinks that I actually changed these to white because I don't like them being blue here. It ruined my whole aesthetic. So, but you can see this one is blue. These are hyperlinks that I've put in there for my students. I had to make it very clear what they were supposed to do and the order in which to do it. So they do a check-in form. I have videos for them explaining the work. And then we use Big Ideas, which is our curricular resource for Algebra 2. They have a website that we've been using all year, so the students were familiar with it already. I also have students that can't access it sometimes for various reasons. So I have a PDF linked here, and you can see it has all the problems in case they needed to see them. But here's what I really wanted to show you. And this is something that I think is important because I'm kind of picky and I open things in my phone all the time. If I have this link, you notice it says, I wrote doc link here, and it opens up in Google Docs. So if I have this in my phone and I open it, it has to open Google Docs in my phone, which is a whole nother app, which I don't personally like. So what you can do instead, and this is my favorite thing ever, what you can do instead is publish this to the web. And let me show you what that looks like when I do that. So I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll show you how to do it. So here's my publish link. So you can see how clean this is. It opens as a website. It doesn't open docs. So those of you who are in the high school, this is the reason we asked for editing rights to your stuff so that we could publish it to the web so that yours could look like a website. And when families clicked on it, they could automatically just open it in a, on the web instead of opening it in docs. The other thing I like about this, when you publish it to the web, if you notice, these are all hot links now. I don't have to click on them and then click again. Maybe it's just me, but I personally, that drives me nuts. So I have to click on it and then would click login page. But when it's published to the web, it's automatically a hot link that opens a new tab for my students. So that's why I've published it to the web. You'll also notice that it just looks like one long page. There's no page break. It's just one long, clean page. And here are some awesome jokes that we put at the end because we have a joke calendar, and I'm convinced that my students miss my bad jokes because of course they do. So this is what it looks like compared to being a doc. So let me show you how I actually did that. I go to File, and I come down here to where it says Publish to the Web. And all I have to do is click Publish to the Web. And since mine is already published, this is what comes up, but I'll show you what happens when it's not. So if I'm doing this for the first time on this document, this is what comes up. And I can say, yes, I want to publish this to the web. And it really wants to make sure I'm okay with that. So I say, okay. And then I get a link. And that's the link that I've put on that HyperDoc. And this is the link that I share with my students so that they can go to this document. And so once I've done that, it automatically, and you can see this down here on my screen, it says automatically republish when changes are made. So that was the other thing we did. And again, for the high school teachers, we used this so that when you updated your to-do list, it automatically updated on the web. So I really like to publish to the web because I think it makes everything look cleaner and is easy to navigate, and you don't have to open up a whole entire different app for it. Okay, so I think that's my whole spiel about docs. Becky, did you I think you're next.
Yep, I'm ready.
All right, I'm getting out of here then. I will stop presenting.
Presenting. Okay, so Melissa uses docs for
Wait,
her stuff. Yeah.
I have a
Yes.
question.
Yeah, Coffee.
Melissa. So when you want to share that web that you just published, you just give them the huge link.
Yep. Well, usually I hyperlink it. I just write like this is week 6, and then I do my, hyperlink under that text.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
So Melissa's all docs. I'm obsessed with slides. So I do a lot of slide stuff, but I forgot about this real fast. Some people have asked us how we do the thing where it forces you to open a copy. If you watch this video later on your own time, you can see it's really easy. You just edit the URL. So I wanted to throw that in there. Okay, so slides. Slides are my one-stop shop for the entire week. So you probably saw it just a little bit ago when I was going through some stuff, but this is kind of what I give my kids for the whole week. They get one slideshow that is hyperlinked, like Melissa's is hyperlinked, so they can jump to Monday's assignment. And the great thing about slides, what I love about slides, is you could actually use this space on the outside. As long as the kids have the editing portion of it, they will see this. So sometimes my kids don't like to read, so I like to record a quick YouTube video explaining the directions. Sometimes they need something extra. So if they haven't created the Delta Math account, here are the directions for creating the Delta Math account. I also like to throw in here like what exactly they need to do. So here they need to put a picture of their histogram progress bar. So I make sure that I put off to the side what that actually looks like and how they could take a picture. So I kind of make this all, everything you need is on this slide and you can do it all from here. So you don't need to go outsourcing looking for things. I don't remember what else I was going to say. Like I said before, if they make a copy, then I can preview their work ahead of time. So it's really nice to see who has started working. Another way that I could do that, oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. I actually never leave the notes inside the speaker notes, but I totally should. I do the private comments all the time. I'm obsessed with those private comments because they can get a little notification. But you could also comment on their assignment. What I started doing this week, just because sometimes my computers are a little slow, I go into my Drive, and every time you make an assignment in Google Classroom, it actually creates a folder for that assignment. So this is this week's assignment for me. And instead of going through each individual, I could see that Nikki worked on her assignment at 3:10 today. So I need to go in and see what Nikki did today. And Amora did something, so I need to go in and see what Amora did. So every day at the end of the day, I just kind of go through who has access to the slideshow and who's done things. And those are the kids I go and give feedback to, instead of just clicking and looking at every single one to see if anybody has done any work on it. With Google Slides, we could also do it in present mode. So my student calendar, so this is present mode of a slide. So instead of the normal URL, so the normal URL is just with an edit at the end. If you change this word to present at the very end, it will open as a presentation. So this is great because this is what my students see when they go to our website. So here is all the information for this week on one slide. So they could see that this week we're creating, reading, and interpreting two-way frequency tables. And they could watch the intro or do reading or creating or whatever. It's all on one slideshow for them. We use present like this. We also use present when it's just a resource. So if we needed, if kids had to catch up on the assignments, instead of going through all of the assignments on Google Classroom, we gave this condensed slideshow where this is all of week 1 stuff. There's all the learn, here's the practice, and down here you can read about how to show evidence for that learning. So this is the present. And notice that I just came to the end of here and I just put the word present at the very end. I just ignore all of this other stuff at the end of the URL. And the nice thing about that is you can actually skip slides. So I start working on my calendar before the week is actually up. I haven't worked on this week's calendar, but if you went into edit mode, you would see that I have some slides that are totally skipped, so the kids won't even see it. So the kids don't see this slide because it is skipped when it's in present mode, which is awesome.
Can you explain how you do that?
How to skip a slide? Yes. Okay, so to skip a slide, you right click on the slide and skip slide is one of the options. So when I have it turned off, let me pull up my website. Here's my website. So when it's turned off, kids can go through the slideshow. When they're going through the slide, oh, I didn't mean to click that link. When they're going through the slideshow, they actually see that slide. But when that is turned off, and I skip the slide, sorry, I'm gonna do it from over here. When they're going through the slideshow, so say they're on this slide and they go to the next, ooh, oh, it hasn't updated yet, sorry. When it updates, it will skip that slide. I also like slides just because the newest stuff is on top. So notice how it skipped that slide that I just wanted to skip because I was still a work in progress. So I right click, I click skip slide if I don't want to show it, or I can click it again to show it.
Okay, we've got about 15 minutes, which I think is just enough time to talk about the last two topics, Gmail and Infinite Campus. So I'm going to open up mine. So if you stop presenting, Becky.
Yes, I'm going to give you access.
Okay, so I'm obsessed with Gmail. I have been part of the zero inbox life for a long time. That means that I try to have as few emails as possible in my inbox at any given time. Usually it's 0, but you can tell right here that I currently have 3 that have come in since we've been doing this. And we could talk about zero inbox another time, but I do want to show you a couple different things that I use. One of them is using the stars. So you can see here how there are little stars. This is just a way of getting to it quickly. Like, for example, I apparently have a student teacher next fall, and she just emailed me, which is very nice. And I'm probably going to want to keep that and be able to find it pretty quickly. So I'm going to star that. And if I want to archive it, it's still going to be found easily in my starred section right here. I can still find it pretty easily. So even if I didn't want to deal with it right now, there's another thing I could do because I'm in the middle of a meeting and I want to make sure I look at it later. I'm going to go to the little clock up here that says snooze, and I'm going to have this pop back up at 6 o'clock because I'm in the middle of stuff right now and I know that's really important to me, and I don't use my inbox as a to-do list, and I know a lot of people do, and that's not a judgment at all, but I have a separate to-do list. So I want to see this later. So I'm going to press the little clock and I'm going to say, make this pop up later. So it will pop back up into my general inbox at 6 o'clock. There's other things I can do too. I can, like I said, I can star it. I can snooze it. You can see this side panel over here on the right. I usually have mine hidden. Becky really loves this side panel. So on the side panel, you've got access to your calendar right away. Keep is a whole nother thing I could talk about for like an hour. And then tasks. So if you see something you have to do in email and you want to make your to-do list in Keep, you can just click on it and it automatically opens up your Keep. And you can kind of see some of my Keep notes here. Or if you use tasks, that will pop up as well. Or if I need to see something on my calendar, this is my calendar for today. So you can see this is going till 3:30, and then my son has an IEP meeting. I know, it's cutting it close today. It's a busy, busy day. There's my calendar. All right, so all of this is within Gmail. You'll also notice they started this thing over here on the left that says start a meeting or join a meeting. So instead of having, if you're in email and you, for example, Becky and I needed to talk about something face-to-face today, so we were going back and forth in email and it was just easier to do that. I said, start a meeting. And then it automatically started a meeting and I sent her the link. So it's all one-stop shopping in Gmail at this point. Okay, and then the last thing that I'm going to talk about, because I want to make sure we have time for Infinite Campus, is archive versus delete. So this is something that works differently than Outlook did. I know a lot of people like to save their old emails. That's fine. So there is a difference between choosing to archive it and choosing to delete it. If you archive it, you can access it forever. It will just be sitting there in the archive. If you delete it, it is gone. It will just be gone. The trash gets emptied. I forgot how often it gets emptied, but it will be gone. So 30 days from now, you'll not be able to like do a search and find that. So we recommend that if you think you might have to refer to it later, that instead of just throwing it away in the trash, you can archive it. I also like to use labels. And so you can see over here on my left in my inbox, these are all my labels. So I have, as emails come in, sometimes I know that they go into specific categories. So for example, with the website that we were working with the high school teachers, we were getting a lot of the due dates. You can see all of them, and they were all shared with us. So every time I got an email about that, I put it in this label. So let me show you how I did that. So let's pretend that this email here is actually something specific about those due dates. I can click on it, and then I can use Move To. And here are all of my labels. So I have some of them that are embedded in others, and I can choose to put this in one of these. If I wanted to make a new one, I can create a new label. They are kind of like folders. They do act like folders. They don't disappear from your whole inbox. They're just kind of nested within your inbox under these labels. So they don't get deleted. They're not archived in the same way as when you archive something, but I like to put things in my labels. So let's say this one is about equity. So I'm going to put it in my equity label, and now it's gone. So I'm going to delete this because I don't need it. And now I'm back to my zero inbox. And it's so beautiful. It makes me so happy. All right. That's everything I think we wanted to talk about. Oh, one more thing. I think everyone needs to know this, so we definitely need to talk about it. So sometimes I write emails and sometimes I forget to add something, especially right now I have quarantine brain and it's not working really well. There is something in your Gmail called undo send. So I'm going to show you how to get there. So let's say I was going to send an email to Becky and I don't know, forgetting something and I forgot to attach it and I send. You'll see down here on my screen, it says undo. So it didn't go to her yet. It pops back up. That is a setting you need to change yourself in your settings. So I'm in my Gmail. I go to my little icon here that says settings. And I'm going to go to settings. And it is in this first general settings. You can scroll down. And one of the options down here somewhere, I know it's here somewhere. I might have passed it.
I think we went past it. Yeah, it's kind of high up there.
I feel like I passed it the first time too. Nope, that's the send and archive. That's a whole.
It's right there. Undo send.
Okay, here it is. Undo send. So you can choose to kind of, it's like a wait. So your email's just not sent right away. You can wait, give it 30 seconds, and then I can undo it. Or if you feel like you need less time than that, you can do that. I like mine in 30 seconds. I would say I've probably used this at least 5 times in the past week because I forgot to add something, or I wanted to say something else, or I wanted to clarify something before I sent it. So that's within settings. And you're right, that's not that far down. About 1/3 of the way down, maybe 1/4 of the way down. Well, pretty close up to the top, actually, right up here. All right, so Becky, I'm going to let you talk about Infinite Campus and what you do with that.
Let's
Just
see.
enough time.
Okay, and Melissa, real fast, just give me a rundown of what we wanted. Well, actually, I'm going to start with comments. So
Yes.
one of my favorite things to do while we're at home, I pulled up a specific student and his grade, is I film a lot of feedback to students. And I feel like it's hard to say what I want to say via writing. So I film a lot of video feedback. So this student, the first time he did it, he didn't get simplifying radical evidence really well. So I filmed him some video feedback, and it shows up. This is what he would see. He sees the comment of the feedback in there. So he's able to just paste that feedback into a browser and watch me actually talking about it. Now, I do this at night on my couch, so don't mind me. But it's really nice that it's there and it's in one place, and parents can see the feedback as well. Sometimes because parents can't see the private comments where I put most of my video feedback on, it's nice to have it in Infinite Campus as well, especially if they don't do anything with that feedback. And that's just to
That's within Gradebook.
Yeah, that's within Gradebook. So that was Jameer's Simplifying Radicals. So I just typed it in right here and I just copied the link. So I made this video feedback with Flipgrid, which here's a little plug. We're doing a Flipgrid workshop on Friday. You guys should totally come.
And Friday's going to be a little bit different because you're going to be able to actually practice using it. This was much more an overview of tips. Friday and the ones coming up after that are much more hands-on, and you'll be practicing doing Edpuzzle or Flipgrid or Screencastify. But this one is much more of a kind of overview of tips.
Yes, I'm sorry that it's so much of us talking, but we have so I'm okay with it. Some other things that I wanted to talk about real fast is you might have noticed this CV showing up in your gradebook. What this CV is Demetrius did not check in with me last week. So when I did not mark him as turned in for his attendance, this is why. Or this is what pops up in your gradebook. It doesn't affect your scores or anything, so you don't have to stress out about that, but that is what's actually happening. And I think hopefully most of us know how to take attendance now. But I wanted to just plug what I'm doing versus what Melissa's doing. So Melissa has this beautiful spreadsheet. Let me show you Melissa's spreadsheet. Melissa, do you want to talk about it briefly?
Yeah, I could talk about it. What I do for attendance, and at the high school, I know it's different than some of the other places. We take attendance just on Fridays. So I like to keep track of my students throughout the entire week. So Friday at 4 o'clock, attendance is done. So if I hear from you anytime after Friday at 4 o'clock, that goes on to the next week. But as you know, that is not generated in IC yet because it doesn't pop up till Monday. So what I needed to do is have a way to keep track of them, including on the weekends. So this is just a Google Sheet that I made that has all my students' name on it, and it's check boxes. And right now I have all the dates on here, but I have the previous 2 weeks hidden from here. But as a student checks in with me, either through email or through Google Classroom or through Remind or by turning in an assignment, I just go in and I check off their names. So I have a lot of students that turn stuff in on the weekends, and there was no way for me to like keep track of that and who I talked to over the weekend. So this is why I made the Google Sheet for myself. And also I have a co-teacher, and so we share it. That also is a nice aspect that we talk to different kids so we can do it at the same time.
So Melissa uses the Google Sheet. I don't have a Google Sheet yet, so I use Infinite Campus. So the turned in will actually go on Friday, but I start updating it on Monday. So Anise has already talked to me, so I put her on Monday, and I keep track of everybody that I've talked to this week on Monday's attendance. And then as soon as Friday opens, I take out Monday's attendance and move it over to Fridays. So all of these Friday marks were on Monday until Friday technically opened, and that's when I moved it over. What other Infinite Campus things did we say?
We were also going to talk about messaging. But I think
we're out of time.
Yeah, I think we're out of time.
We've got some great stuff on messaging on our website. So if you need it, feel free to go there, or I'm happy to talk to you guys about it another time if you'd like.
That's true. We do have that on there. Do you have to put in the T or just generate it? You have to type the T. Oh, I also, when I go into my attendance and I do that for Infinite Campus, I just populate the entire thing with T's, and then I just take off the ones for the students that did not do it. So.
And she does that, oops.
Other arrow.
Right next to it by putting a T on for everyone.
Oh, I don't do it that way.
Oh, you could do it that way, or you could go to
I go to the fill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go to the fill and I actually type in the T. And then I fill it. Yeah, that's how I do it. But I guess you could just click the T.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
how
I
it
didn't,
finds the missing assignments.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's how I would do it. So we do have, thank you, Robo. We do have on the last, two things. One of them is if you're interested in additional practice, we are going to have the video of this on our website, which the link is on the last slide, and we'll share that again in the comments or in the chat. But if you're interested in additional practice, we have links to some practice cards, some challenge cards that Google made that are pretty amazing. Or we also highly recommend becoming a level 1 or level 2 Google certified educator. And there is a link for that on the slide as well. And then our last slide just has a link to, the codes. AFT actually has discounted prices for level 1 and level 2 certified educator. So if you wanted it, it's one of them is $10 and one is $25. These give you a discount on both of those. The codes are also listed within the slideshow. And then our last slide is just a list of the resources that we have a website that we've been kind of adding things to all year. Oh, I'm sorry, since the remote learning started.
Feels like all year.
Yeah, it feels like all year. This month feels like all year. And if you need a link, Becky, can you put a link to the sign in and to the website again? I'm sorry, to the slide deck in the chat.
Yep.
So if you do need,
We wanted to talk about real fast. If you are trying to get PDUs for this stuff, there is an activity log there for you to keep track of your hours.
Okay. Oh, yep. There's the website or this is the slides, that workflow, CHUH workflow. So if there's something in there that you want to go back and link, especially those challenge cards at the end, they're really great for additional practice. They have links on them to help you. We really, really, really appreciate everyone coming. As we said, the next ones will be set up a little bit different with more tasks and more independent practice. This one was definitely much more of an overview. So again, we totally appreciate you coming. Thank you very, very, very much. And our emails are also on the slides. You can contact us anytime.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky and Melissa. That was awesome.